Well, there's a lot to analyze in the speeches and campaigns of the candidates, and our guests are here to help us with that. Dr. Cynthia Rugeley is Associate Professor at UMD and Head of the Political Science Department. And Dr. Alisa Von Hagel is Associate Professor of Political Science at UWS. Thank you both for being here. Dr. Rugeley, let's start with you. We've got two major political candidates running for president in Minnesota at the same time. What does this say about our region?
Well, there's a couple things going on. One, it was a very close election in 2016. Immediately afterwards, Donald Trump came out and said, I'm going to carry Minnesota. So there's a certain element of pride. And I think what he's trying to do by judging, going to the rural areas and really get a high turnout, Biden is trying to limit that turnout in those rural areas and get the labor vote and things like that. Mm-hmm. It says, in a nutshell, that Minnesota's in play, at least in the eyes of the candidates. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Von Hagel, Wisconsin's just across the border, also an important state in this election. How do you look at this?
I think it's a very similar case to Minnesota, where, in 2016, Wisconsin actually voted for the president. All 10 electoral votes went for the president, but it was a very small margin, and the state has voted Democrat for 10, 20 years before that. So it's also a state that is very similar in its makeup, where Trump is trying to trying to find the rural voters and bring up enthusiasm for his campaign, and again hold on to the state of Wisconsin, which is also in play, it seems.
Both UWS and UMD are opened again. What are you hearing from your students?
They realize,
scratching their head, maybe?
Yeah, they're realizing that we're all just doing the best that we can, and they are, in terms of the campaigns, yes, and the political candidates. I think it's gotten to the point where just people can't deal with every day there seems to be a new, I can't even say disaster or something, and so I think there is a lot of sort of apathy that's starting to grow, just disconcern with, the way that the discussion is held, and fear, I think, too, in terms of the future of what that may look like for them as, if they are international students who are here on campus, or, if they graduate and go on to the labor force, what that may look like in the future.
Dr. Rugeley, what are you hearing?
Well, I don't think they're particularly pumped up about either one of the candidates. I think they're going to vote. I mean, I think that, as Alisa said, a lot of them are really concerned about the economy. They're concerned about their futures. They're, they see a lot of the arguments. I don't think they like the chaos. I think that, as you said, I think that their heads are kind of rolling. I've found in my classes that as political science majors that, it's not that, people say that it's a Democratic area. Well, it's not with students. It's pretty evenly mixed. Mm-hmm. But again, when you talk to them, they don't really, it's not something that they'd give up their family farm for either one of them. Mm-hmm. It's
Are you finding that perhaps students today aren't necessarily voting then the same way as their parents did, that things have changed? It used to be where if mom and dad were a Democrat or Republican, all the kids were Democrats or Republican. Is this changing?
I think to a certain extent, although I think this is a election that will start to change that. And I think that, as you mentioned, that students aren't happy with either of the candidates, but are really wanting to make a difference. And there's huge levels of organization of college students, especially in Wisconsin, throughout the state, to really just bring people to the polls. And again, if you don't necessarily like both or either candidate very much, there's still this emphasis on the need for your future, for the future of everyone else, to go out and vote and to make a difference.
Why do you think politics has become so contentious?
It's been kind of heading in that direction for a while. It was interesting because it was talked about today how when Barack Obama and John McCain were running against each other, one of them won, one of them lost, but they both had about 60% favorability ratings. Mm-hmm. It's hard to believe that now. And
that's not that long ago.
No, it's not. And that's what my students, they think it's always been this way. They, But again, I think a lot of it is, I mean, it's definitely gone to the extreme recently, where it's really launched into kind of a us versus them campaign. You know, that seems to be a lot of the focus of Trump's campaign in particular. I mean, it's always been there, but it's never been this overt. I mean, it's, you know, I stand up for the little guy, you don't, and you know, but it's never been this, I'm gonna get rid of the immigrants, I'm gonna get rid of, you know, this kind of stuff. And again, I don't know why it's gotten that way this particular election, except it worked.
Northern Minnesota is leaning toward President Trump right now. Are you finding the same thing, Doctor, in Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin?
In general, yes, the rural areas are more likely to vote for Trump, and polls show that he is leading in a number of rural counties there, but his lead is actually starting to decline as compared to 2016. Given the threats of coronavirus that still are present and don't seem to be going away anytime soon. You know, there's really a, you know, people want change and they want that to be, you know, addressed. And so he does have a lead, but it's not quite as significant as it was before.
Donald, you go ahead, please.
What she's saying, I think you're finding consistent in Minnesota too. If you look back on it, I mean, Trump won the 8th congressional district, Duluth and the areas around it, by 16 percentage points. But you know, he didn't really get that many more votes than Mitt Romney. It was Hillary Clinton that seriously underperformed. And so that's the real challenge for him in Minnesota, is that he's got to rack up these huge margins, the same type margins that he got when people weren't voting for Hillary Clinton, plus hold what he got in the suburban areas and maybe get a little bit more to offset what's happening in the Twin Cities. So he's got a tough, it would have to be a perfect storm really for him to work, and I'm not saying it can't happen, but again, I mean, it's a difficult challenge for him to keep those same margins that he had before. He'll probably meet it in, I don't know, I'm not going to say that because I haven't seen any polling, but anyway, that's the challenge he faces.
How important is a presidential visit to your community during a campaign?
I think that it drums up enthusiasm with your base, and what we see with Trump's base that...
Does it change minds, do you think, Doctor?
I'm not sure if it changes minds necessarily. I think that those who turn out, especially in these, you know, times, that those who are turning out are those that are, you know, very hardcore base supporters, and at this time they perhaps, given, you know, again, different events that have come up and, you know, reasons why people might be maybe not tending to vote towards Trump anymore, that this is a visit will help them to kind of garner that enthusiasm and get to the polls. And so, if anything, I think it just drums up enthusiasm amongst the base.
Is there a coattail effect? Other politicians of the same party, when they see a president come to town, is there a coattail effect?
There's a coattail effect in the voting. You know, as Alisa said, I think a lot of it really drums up support and it gets enthusiasm when they come to town. I'm not certain that it changes any minds. But yeah, it does. The more people that turn out to vote for Joe Biden, chances are that they may go in and vote also for other Democrats on the ticket. CD8 again is kind of weird in the sense that people here aren't afraid to split their votes. You saw that in 2016 where Trump comes out with a 16 percentage point advantage. Nolan wins the Democrat by 2 percentage points.
I need a short answer. Joe Biden is not making big public appearances. Is that a mistake?
I think that's what his base wants. It seems that that's what his base wants.
You don't think that that's going to hurt him in the long run?
I mean, he's following the laws of, you know, respective states that he's attending, you know, going to. And so I think that for his base that, you know, are, again, the people that he wants to, you know, garner up enthusiasm, that's what they're expecting. That's what they more so desire.
Okay, Professor Alisa Von Hagel, Professor Cynthia Rugeley, can't thank you enough. Thanks for being here tonight. All right, thank you so kindly.